Welcome back to the Catch Some SoulShine podcast, and I'm your host, Dawn Renee Bova. Today, I am joined with Paula Schuster, and she is the podcast host of Scared as F podcast and doing it anyway. I'm really excited to talk to her about authenticity and her views on that, and she's had some really huge life shifts and changes. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Paula.
Thanks, Dawn. Thanks for having me on. My name is Paula Schuster. I'm a leader, a teacher, a lifelong learner, a seeker, a mom, a wife, and just an overall lover of life. I'm also
Mhm.
a self-love and authenticity coach, and I'm a Reiki master, a certified sound healer. In my business, I help women learn to love and choose themselves again and to shed the conditioning that tells us that we're selfish for not putting ourselves first.
Perfect. And there is a lot of conditioning around that.
Oh, yes.
We were talking earlier about the importance of authenticity, and the premise of my podcast is awakening brilliance after life's darkest moments. My listeners, people on here know that I've had some very dark moments, but I think as women, we've all had dark moments in our lives, and especially the older we get, it can be as deep as a profound loss, or it could be the loss of a job. It could be relationship losses. There's so many things that trauma from past life
Mhm.
that affect us. And I think that when we work through these dark times is when we really get to the core of who we are. And I know that you had this corporate job. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that and how your path took a turn with where you are
Sure.
now?
Sure. I'd love to. Um, I, when I was first sort of starting out in life, there was a path laid out for me by my parents, and I chose to follow that instead of what was really in my heart. And it was the whole, go to college, get a stable job, be able to help support your family and things like that. And so I did. It didn't feel right, at the time, but I didn't know better. I didn't know enough to recognize that and really change it. So anyway, I went to college and I went on to corporate America, and I worked at a large financial institution for 26 years. And what sort of changed things for me was getting attuned to Reiki energy healing. I was drinking the corporate Kool-Aid, forever. When I got attuned to Reiki, when I was being attuned to Reiki, when I literally felt myself come home to my body, my heart, and I had a huge big bang awakening. I was attuned to all three levels in 1 week. My whole life changed. I came back from that week of training totally different person. My family didn't recognize me. I didn't look the same. I didn't feel the same. I didn't care about the same things. I didn't eat the same. I didn't even want to dress the same. Like, I couldn't eat red meat anymore. Like, just so many things had changed. My teenage daughter really kind of got up in my face and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I don't know. We're finding out. We're finding out." And that was really the start of my path of misalignment with corporate America and everything that was going on in the job that I had. I had a very demanding job. I was a leader for many years and I led organizations. From that point forward, which it was October 2020, when I was trained in Reiki. And from that point forward, I just started to suffer more and more in corporate America, more than I ever had. I always had these sort of uncomfortable feelings. I always had this low level anxiety that I thought was me, and it wasn't. It was just me not being in the right place. It was me not really following who I am. And I ended up quitting my job in May of 2022. So it took a couple years. I was the breadwinner in the family, so we had to make changes to our budget. I had to talk with my wife about, being okay with selling our house, all these big changes. And I had just decided that I didn't need all the things that I thought I had needed. I didn't need to get my hair done. I didn't need to get my nails done. I didn't need to get waxed. And I didn't need to do all the stuff. So that helped a little bit with the budgeting process. I had started my business when I was attuned to Reiki. So when I came home in October 2020, I had started my Reiki business because it had such huge impact on me. I thought, well, how can I not share this with the world? Like, it had totally changed my life and who I was and all this stuff. So, but with my corporate job, I just didn't get much time to spend on it. So that when the time came for me to quit, I was still scared. So let me back up a minute. 6 months after I was attuned to Reiki and trained in Reiki, I went and got my life coaching certification. So I added that to my business and my practice. But I had all these fears around it and stuff. And even when I quit my corporate job in May of 2022, I was still scared to really step out with my business and do that fully. So what wined and dined me out of corporate America was this organic mushroom farm. I was looking to do more purposeful work because corporate America was sucking the soul out of me. I thought, well, mushrooms heal people, and they had a nonprofit arm where they were going to be using the spent mushroom bags to heal the earth and all this stuff. And so I thought, well, this is more purposeful work. What I was seeing, they were promising me 10% ownership in the company. And so I was seeing sort of dollar signs equal to what my earnings were in corporate America. And that kind of wined and dined me enough to get me out of the financial institution I was working for. And shortly after I quit my job of 26 years and was working for this organic mushroom farm, the owner, sort of showed her true self, and she was very abusive. And I had healed from so much abuse in my life. And so this was the universe presenting me with another choice. Like, you have healed yourself from this, or you feel like you have, you say that you have. Let's see what you're really going to choose. And so I chose myself. I said, I'm not getting back into abusive situation, no matter what the dollars are. And so I quit. I quit a couple months later. And that day I quit the organic mushroom farm, I went online and I bought a tent. And I started signing up for county fairs, farmers markets, and street expos, and all of these sort of events where I could go and put my tent up and share Reiki and life coaching with people. And so that's what I did to start building my business.
That is crazy, incredible. I think about the markets, and I have a tent out in the garage, which I have not opened up out of the box yet, I will say, but I have the tent.
Nice.
I've not really seen the coaching, the Reiki, stuff like that at these fairs.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by that. And what was the response like?
Similar to you, like, people were blown away, like, what, Reiki's here? Like, what? And I would
Yeah.
ask people, like, as I'm standing outside my tent trying to get people, to stop by, I'm like, do you know about Reiki? And so many more people said yes, they knew about it than I ever thought would.
Yeah.
So they had maybe seen it on YouTube or seen it on a TV show or something like that. So I loved that. They had heard about it, at least, maybe just didn't know much about it. And so that still gave me an opportunity to talk with them about it. But yeah, it was that same kind of a similar response was, what, I've never seen this before. I always tried to sort of, like at a county fair, I'd say, well, put me next to the crystal booth, or something like that,
Yeah.
because that's like along the lines of what I'm doing or something. So yeah, it was interesting.
And you were able to grow your business that way.
I was really intent on, at least initially, growing my business in the local community. I didn't want to be doing it on social media. I didn't want to be sitting behind the computer and all that. I've since changed a little bit of my idea on that, and I am doing more on social, and I'm more comfortable with that. But that's where I had started out. This past summer would have been my second summer doing like events like that. And my family had an opportunity to go to Costa Rica, or I had an opportunity to go to Costa Rica for 2 months this summer to watch a friend's house and dogs. And so that really kind of messed up my normal summer and early fall fair and market thing. So I didn't do
Yeah.
as much of that this year as last year. And I could tell, too, in my business, well, I was gone for the summer, but I will go out and do more of that again for sure.
We were talking earlier about how the universe gives you signs, and I was telling you I had a blue day yesterday. I'll call it a blue day. No coincidence. It happened on the longest night of the year, the most darkness. I do feel that it's all intertwined, and I'm doing this ritual of 13 wishes. And I started that, and I burned one yesterday, and then watched that movie that was just a heartfelt, fun little movie, just because I didn't feel like painting. I didn't feel like doing anything. And what do you know? The messages in the movie, the guy's talking about woman's saying how she has such bad luck, and it was like a little Hallmarky love thing, and he's coming to help her, and she goes, I just have the worst luck. And And he says to her, well, really what you focus on is what is drawn to you. So maybe you just change the way you think. And I thought to myself, I can't believe I'm watching this movie and I'm getting this message right now. I mean,
Amazing.
so when you're talking about these fairs, I've gotten messages of people doing them and how it's helping their business, and I've been resistant for whatever reason. Maybe it's fear-based. I'm not sure. Fear of how much work it's going to take, or maybe I won't be successful, or people won't buy my art. And then I hear you being successful doing it with Reiki, and I think, I feel like the universe is trying to tell me something.
There you go. Go out and do it. I mean, your art is beautiful. I've seen it.
Thank
It's
you.
gorgeous. I think you would have much success.
I also recently, I follow, you're one of my social media friends, and I follow your journey. And I saw that you went to Mexico for the sound healing certification. And
Mhm.
I love the sound meditations and healing. And I'd like you to speak a little bit more about that because it's so important.
Yes, I mean, sound is a healer for us. You know, the right sounds, right? They put our bodies into a parasympathetic nervous system response, which slows our blood flow, our blood pressure, our heart rate, our brain activity, and that is really the place that allows our body to heal. And that's what Reiki does as well. So it's very
Mhm.
similar in the effects. Although Reiki has a cumulative effect, and I don't know the science behind sound and if it does, but all I know is that when people attend our sound baths, you know, they are changed. They are reset. They
Mhm.
are relaxed. They have a better sense of well-being. All the busy stuff going on in the mind has slowed and left, you know, and just given them a break. The science really is that, you know, sound is vibration and frequency that then entrains with our frequency and our nervous system to help us heal. And so sound
Mhm.
heals emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually on all the levels.
We are vibrational beings.
We
Like
are.
our cells have energy. There's science. And when you said you don't know if it's a cumulative, I do believe it's cumulative because if you think about it, I'm going to get a little sciencey here because I
Okay.
have that nursing background. Whatever we do to eliminate the release of cortisol, which
Ah,
is,
yes.
something that can do damage to our vessels, adds fat cells to our stomach, can have a cumulative effect. So when you're doing the sound healing, you're not releasing cortisol.
Right.
Let's say you weren't doing the sound healing and you're experiencing some type of stress, you are releasing cortisol. Now, on the flip side of that, let's say you've had a stressful event like I had at my house this morning, and then I decide I need to do a little healing so I can bring myself back to that state of calm and rest and flush out some of that cortisol. But I think the less cortisol that we put in our body cumulatively, it's going to have an effect.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good perspective.
So I think the science would back that for sure. All these healing modalities, I studied healing touch, which is it's an energy medicine, but it was developed by a nun and a nurse. It talks about, healing through the different energy points of the body, which I have come to know as chakras, releasing some of that energy and getting the flow. And, really it's all about unblocking. We're not adding things to ourselves. We're really taking things away that block
Right.
us off from the sunlight of the spirit, from the flow state, from all of that. And that's what I try to remember. We're going to go back to that state of homeostasis where we're just calm. How do we do that? We get rid of stuff.
Right. And sound helps with that too, right? It puts us back
Yeah.
in that state of homeostasis. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
for
That
sure.
lucid
Yeah.
sort of, yeah. and a lucid sort of dreamlike state where again the body can do all sorts of healing.
So when you talked about leaving corporate America and starting this business and downsizing, I think a lot of times people think to be happy, you really have to have all the things, the bells and whistles. And I really want to illustrate that happiness is an inside job,
Yes, it is.
not from outside circumstances. It definitely doesn't come from outside circumstances, because if it did, you wouldn't have all these very wealthy, apparently top of the world people, very depressed, sad, sometimes, losing their lives or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why all these tools that I love talking to you about the Reiki and the sound healing, because all these tools that people can get to put in the tool belt can bring you back to that state of happiness, peace, and joy.
Yes.
Like for me, just talking to you about it brings me back to a place of peace.
I agree. I feel the same way. Yeah. I had all the things that they said. That's part of, I may have even put that in the intro to my podcast. I had all the things that they say should make you happy, but I
Yeah.
still felt deeply unfulfilled and unhappy. And I would see all the memes about it's an inside job and all the stuff, but it never really sunk in until
Mhm.
I was able to, I don't release conditioning and trauma and all the stuff, which is what happened. Like when I go back to that Reiki training, that's what happened. I shed all this stuff in that moment. And it just sort of woke me up to really like receive that on a deeper level.
I mean, it's really about radical self-love, right?
Yes.
That's exactly what it's about. Looking at yourself and learning to love yourself on a very deep level can take some work.
Oh, for sure. And that's a journey that I've been on since I did sort of have this awakening moment. It helped me realize that I didn't love myself. And in
Mhm.
fact, I was, meaner to myself than I was to, everyone around me.
Yeah.
And it just helped me become aware of that and helped me really start doing the work around it. I hated myself on a physical level, on an emotional level, on all the things, all the levels. And now it's taken work, years of consistency, consistent practices, using all my tools, investing in myself, seeing the truth for what it is as well. Now I can really say, like, I love myself. I love the curves that I have left. I mean, I've lost like 60 or 70 pounds, but I still have curves left, and I love every bit of them. And I'm older, so I have like sagging skin, and I love that too. It's a process. It is.
I know for myself, one of the things that has really become apparent to me is that I've carried around this guilt. And I don't know if it's part of a society thing, conditioned for it, or the self, like, could I have done more to help my son? Or, should I have done more to help him? And cognitively, I know that I did everything I could, and I loved him and he loved me. I know this. But on a deep soul level, I wasn't aware of how much guilt I was carrying around. I'm working through that with the self-love. Even though we say I'm really healing and I'm doing great, we all have something that's really deep-seated that if you open your eyes and start to see it, you can start to shed it.
Absolutely. It's hard to accept that for you, I'm sure, especially as his mom, that was just his soul's path.
Yeah.
We all have our path and our journey and our road, and it's sort of set out even before we're, born or while we're being born. But it's I can't even imagine, how hard it is to accept that when you've had a child die.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an intuitive reach out to me, and I didn't know her, but she was a friend of Brad's, and she told me about a dream or a vision that she had, and she says, I just feel like you need to hear it. And I said, okay, yeah, please tell me. And
Mhm.
she said, we were walking down the beach because he was in Florida at the time, and it was a gray and dark and rainy day in Florida. And, it's normally not like that here. It's sunny and bright and beautiful, but everything was gray and dark. The beach was gray and the sky. And she goes, I'm walking down the beach, and way off in the distance, I see this speck of light. She goes, and I didn't know what it was. I just kept walking toward the light. It got closer and closer, and she said it was like a sunshine beam coming down from the sky and shining on this one spot in the beach. The closer I got, I realized there was a person standing there. And I looked, and he turned around and he looked at me, and it was Brad. And she
Wow.
said he had this beautiful big grin on his face like he always did. And he said, tell everybody I love you. It's beautiful here. And I'll see you later.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. I carry that with me. I believe that that was a message for me, that we can carry around so much pain and guilt and all that. But in reality, it's beautiful. It's beautiful there. I do believe that, there will be a meeting at some point. It's just comforting to know. I don't think that my time here on earth should be spent focusing on loss and grief. I think it needs to be spent on what brings me joy
Right.
and what brings me light and happiness and calm and peace. That's our purpose here.
Supposed to be happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're supposed to live an easeful, happy, joyous life.
Yeah. No matter what. And I'm an example. You
A
can be
bright,
happy.
shining example.
No matter what, you can be happy.
You're
Yeah.
killing it. You're killing it, lady.
Thank you. I got a little weepy there. But whenever I tell that story, it's just so profoundly meaningful to me. It brings me to that place of hope, I guess is the word, hope.
And
Yeah.
maybe a little relief, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
relief. Yeah.
Because I'm
No.
sure, like, he probably doesn't want to see you suffer. He doesn't
Right.
want you to be doing the should have and could have. And he wants to see you as happy as possible. Sort of, you're living your heaven on earth.
Wow. Wow. What another great conversation. Where can people find you if they want to do some deeper sound healing or Reiki healing? Do you have a
People can,
website?
I do. Yes. My website is reikiflowmn.com. So that's reikiflowmn.com. And yeah, you can find all my information there and all my offerings.
I'll put that in the show notes as well. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much. And I think we'll talk again sometime.
Thank you, Dawn. I agree. I would love that.
Thanks for joining me today on the Catch Some SoulShine podcast. Wasn't Paula a joy? I really love talking to her about authenticity and getting back to self and all the healing techniques that she does. Please check her out, and I will have her website in the show notes. And also, don't forget, if you want to be part of something really special, join the Ripple experiment. It's ripple.dawnreneebove.com, and that will be in the show notes as well. Pick up a free download of the Radical Self-Love book, and I will have that link in the show notes today as well. I'll see you next week.